FYI, and of course, Gary Detterman now taking over for the retired Dave Vickers. We got Gary DeLacy. Gary, good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you.
How's the summer been going so far? I know it just got started.
Yeah, closure to the school year. A lot of this part of my responsibilities is a lot of the evaluation of the administrative staff and things, and pulling the 21-22 school year to closure. So probably by about the middle of next week, I'll be able to get that part finished up, and then I can start to focus on the upcoming school year.
Oh, very good. You were gracious enough to come in July, so we'll talk to you again on July 21st when then you're really getting ready to begin another school year.
A month from now, we'll definitely be talking about school startup.
Yeah, you were telling me August 23rd.
Yep. So, it's set by the state of Iowa, but we'll start August 23rd. But we better enjoy a little bit of summer first before we start talking about coming back to school.
There you go. Again, Gary DeLacy joining us, good enough to give me some talking points. Let's begin with you. You need some bus drivers, right?
Yeah. We talked about this Monday night at the school board meeting, and we actually approved an incentive program out there. This is more than a Clinton problem. This is a nationwide problem. And first of all, you got a labor shortage, and then on top of it, the federal government implemented a law that had been sitting there since 2016, which really increases the amount of training to get a CDL. So that went into effect February 7th. So, now probably to get from beginning to end, we're probably looking at a 6 to 8 week window to get somebody walking in our door says, hey, I think I would like to drive a school bus, to actually being able to do that. So we're putting out an incentive out there, a $2,000 incentive for anyone that would like to drive a school bus for us next year full time. It would be a $500 bonus when you achieve your CDL, and then when you drive for us, and at the end of the next year's school year, you'd get another $1,500 on that. So we're concerned about having enough drivers to actually run our normal operation. We would actually like to have some cushion. We haven't really had cushion on that. We're also looking for just substitute drivers. So if you're not willing to commit to full-time, but willing to do some part-time driving, the bonus is at $1,500. Again, $500 for obtaining your CDL, and then $1,000 for doing some part-time driving at the end of next year for giving service to the school district. So, other benefits, obviously, it gives you some flexibility, particularly if you're a substitute driver, where we can really work around your schedule. I'll be honest, we're even looking for drivers that would drive activities. Right. So, if somebody says, you know what, I go to all the football games, maybe I'll get my CDL and I'll drive. Well, now you can get paid for watching the games. Yeah. So I'm actually hopeful that we need a few regular drivers, but we also need just some of those substitute or part-time drivers to step up. And I mean, if somebody'd say, heck, Gary DeLacy might be interested in boys basketball, So to be honest with you, I am going to be in the first cohort. I'm going to get my CDL as well. They always say the superintendent should be the last on the sub list for bus drivers. Well, I'm going to get to that point this year, hopefully, and get my CDL and help out when needed.
Oh, that'll be interesting. Transportation, I would imagine, people realize how the importance of it for the school system. They probably don't realize how important it really is.
The reason I talked to the board the other night, I'm really worried about it disrupting our operation of school. If we can't get kids to school,
I might be a bus driver right now.
It could be.
Somebody calling you.
That's what I'm hoping for. Maybe that is a bus driver. So they're hot and heavy on that. But I'm right now. It looks like we may be down 3 to 4 what I would call regular drivers. So I obviously need to fill those routes. I would love to be able to get a cushion where we add 1 or 2 routes. I've talked to some parents this year where the buses are pretty full, and then you start getting some behavioral issues because they're full. Yeah, I would love to be able to create smaller routes and not have as many kids on a bus just to support student behavior, but I need those drivers. So I guess I'll be honest, we're trying to do a full court press here this month to see if we can get a cohort up and running. And if we get started here the end of this month, I'm hopeful by August 23rd that we will add 3, 4, 5, 6 more drivers to our fleet, and I would feel a lot better in that situation than where we are right now.
So if somebody is interested, what should they do, Gary?
They can contact either Chris Turner or myself, 243-9600. You can just ask for the superintendent. I do believe we will start later this month with the cohort group. There are some written tests that you have to pass, and then it's just like behind the wheel. There's some things, but you're doing it with a school bus where you have to learn how to operate an air brake system and things like that. So yeah, please reach out. We'd be very interested just even to talk if you want more information on this employment opportunity. It's a great opportunity to supplement income. You know, in this point right now with inflation and everything, it would be an opportunity that you could do something part-time and still maintain your job and have some flexibility.
Again, visiting with Gary DeLacy. Before we break for the weather, this is something you talked a little bit about last time, portrait of a graduate. Talk about that.
The board actually approved that portrait of a graduate model on Monday night. So what that is we really worked in the last 21 months on core values. What do we expect a graduate to be able to demonstrate when they go across the stage? And it's a really different conversation than they got their 48 credits and got the 6 credits of math and 8 credits of language arts. The way most of us say, well, that's how you graduate. You got to get those credits. We're looking now at I'll be honest, we need to reshape education because when you talk to employers, they're not interested in that. What they're interested in are our employees accountable? Are they showing up for work? Are they showing up for work on time? Can they collaborate with others and there's not any human conflict situations? Can they problem solve? Can they critically think? Can they manage change and those things? So there's 5 core values that we have developed, which we'll be putting out there. And now the hard work for the school district will begin is, okay, how do we teach those to kids? How do we assess that? How does that become part of what I would call the grading system if we do that? So we may be looking at having less emphasis on the content. Like, while it's really important for you to have mastery of the quadratic formula, and I'm a former math teacher, I think that's important. No. But the bottom line is I realize those skills are really workplace readiness skills that our employers really, that's where, I've heard employers in the community, we'll teach them what they need to know to be successful in our business. But what we need is this skill development in our youth so when they enter the workforce, they can be successful. So
how do you incorporate that into the curriculum then, Gary?
Well, I think that'll be one of the things. I think we've always done it informally, and this is what I think is going to be sort of the flip, to get through the content. We've said, well, we're going to do some things like we're going to do a group project and things like that. Well, the intent was good, but a lot of times my daughters will say, well, it was a group project, Dad, but I did 99% of the work and the rest of them sat there and let me do it, and we all got the same grade. How do you get it where there's individual accountability within the group project, which I think can be done is, yeah, you can self-assess yourself, you can have your peers review, you can have teacher observation, you can have different roles. Each one, did each complete the roles that they were expected to do? So actually giving teachers to say, okay, you're just not going to say, here's a group of 4 kids and okay, here's the assignment and go. It's going to be, here are the expectations of what each one of you needs to do to complete this entire project, and this is how you're going to be assessed. And a big part of that assessment will be your process your contribution in the process of learning, not just what the final product is. So our teachers will need to be kind of in. Some of them are doing great, some of that already. It's been developing organically because of that. Now I think having this portrait of a graduate, it now puts the like, okay, we all need to get on board, and how does the district support teaching and learning to support these skills?
Does the Synergy program, does that kind of lead to what you're talking about?
Well, the Synergy group basically is probably a forerunner in some ways of that, because what we've done there, part of it is just this authentic learning to say, okay, here's a problem. So we talk about this problem solving and innovative thinking. You know, they started off with the problem, how do we beautify downtown Clinton? So, you know, they started going, and this last year they kind of centered on murals, and then they did a lot of research on murals, and then they got to a point they needed to find some community partners, which they found some community partners. Then they had to fundraise to get them. And, you know, you mentioned one thing, tomorrow night is going to be their kind of kickoff party for the murals, and I believe all 3 are up now in the community. So it is part of that process in terms of that, because they just took a problem that's in the community to say, you know what, we've got a lot of these buildings that the walls don't look the greatest or whatever. How do we brighten them up and give a better look to the downtown area?
All right, well, let's take a break for the weather. More with Gary DeLacy after this. Our weather brought to you by Clinton National Bank.
Nice break in the humidity, still on track for today, though it's still going to be hot as we head into the afternoon. Sunny skies, highs in the low 90s, but feels like temperatures will also be in the low 90s as well. Mostly clear tonight, down to 65. We'll continue to get a little bit cooler as we go into Friday. Sunny skies, highs in the upper 80s, and then down to near 60 for Friday night. A nice cool start for the upcoming weekend. Saturday, sunny skies, highs in the low 80s, and of course, low humidity as well. Temperatures dropping into the upper 50s Saturday night. Give that air conditioning a break. But the heat and humidity returns for the end of the upcoming weekend. Mostly sunny on Sunday, highs near 90. With your Storm Track 8 forecast, I'm meteorologist Andrew Stutzky.
Sunshine, 75 degrees. Our update brought to you by Clinton National Bank.
It's always a good time to search for a new home. When you say yes to your new perfect address, let Clinton National Bank do the rest. One of our friendly and helpful lenders will help you with an affordable interest rate. They'll then do their part so you can move into your new home as soon as possible. Give us a call today. We're an equal housing lender.
Again, on FYI, visiting with Gary DeLacy, Superintendent of Schools for Clinton. Well, something that kind of involves me a little bit. You've got a new AD and you've got a new boys basketball coach.
Yes, we do. So kind of a new era in a couple areas for Clinton High School, and we're excited to have these two men on board.
Talk about them.
Well, first of all, Kevin Bear is probably a pretty common name. He's been with the district since 2004. He's done a lot of coaching, particularly in football. You've seen him on the sidelines. He's served as an at-risk coordinator pretty much throughout the time that I have been here. He's stepping up into this new activities director role for Clinton High School. Bottom line is that we know that there are some challenges within our programs. I'm going to be very excited to sit down with Kevin to kind of see taking some things that Andy Everhart started. There's some things there that maybe the community doesn't know. We did a kind of a character counts program with our head coaches, and they went through a program this last year. Again, probably going in a little bit into portrait of a graduate, but through an athletic process. How do you build character and some of the characteristics that you want through sports, through your coaching staff, and then obviously down to the student athletes. So one of my concerns is I don't want that ball to be dropped just because Andy left. So what is the next steps to get that incorporated? Our head coaches went through that, but our assistants haven't seen that yet. And I would like to know what is the plan in terms of how is that going to filter down into the student athlete level? How is that going to be incorporated into practices or in team meetings, and talk about core values, you know, in terms of teamwork and hard work and being able to manage conflict between teammates, or if adversity during a ball game and those things. And basically what you're trying to do is build stronger student athletes, and it's just not about the physical skills, it's about the mental and emotional skills as well. So that piece will be important, and then just being able to talk about how do we build stronger athletic programs to compete in the Mississippi Athletic Conference. And I know one of the major challenges that I'll be talking to Kevin about is how can we build our coaching staffs to be stronger, which is a huge challenge right now. We have a shortage everywhere. Coaching is another area where we have shortages. But one of the things when you start looking at some of the stronger programs, there's always the inspiring head coach that's on the staff. And right now, I think that's an area that we got to really work on is as we look at our different programs, can you look at that sophomore or freshman or even down into the middle school, 7th or 8th grade, and say, there is an aspiring coach that maybe 5 to 10 years could be a head coach in our program. So I think building capacity within our coaching staffs will be another thing that I'll talk to Kevin, and what are our strategies to be able to do that as well.
Okay, and speaking of head coaches, we got a new varsity boys basketball coach.
Yeah, Marty Daniels. I think he was a big piece of the success why DeWitt went to the state tournament. I had an informal conversation with him a couple days ago as he was coming on board with us. And just a lot of his involvement was at the younger levels with those DeWitt kids, which ended up going to the state tournament. But he talked a lot about having the proper balance. And I was very impressed with his approach, because a lot of times when you start seeing development at the 4th, 5th, 6th grade levels, there's a tendency to still want to win a lot and get those trophies. And his approach was very different. He talked about how it was important that player development and that we kept all kids in the loop, and we didn't want kids to quit because you didn't know who the late bloomer would be. And I'll be honest, it kind of brought me back to like one of our players, Jeff Werning. Yeah. Jeff Werning was what I would call a late bloomer who I think we would all say we wouldn't have won a state championship in '92 without bringing him along in those early years. And then when he did bloom, he ended up being a big piece of the puzzle. And so Marty talked a lot about that. And I think that's going to be one of the keys for the boys program is how do we work those lower levels and get kids interested in basketball? How do we teach fundamentals? How do we in this community provide maybe some of those opportunities, but it is an AAU? Do we do some things within the town where we have basically an in-town league and have some definite practice, you could call it practice or coaching, but then allow kids to play and get those opportunities without having huge financial means that a lot of times you need in AAU, which can be a barrier to some of our kids and families to say, I just can't afford to be doing that at these levels. But my kids would love the opportunity to play and participate. So a lot of my conversation with Marty is that. Obviously, that's more of a long-term vision. He's also going to have to get a handle on who's returning and what's it going to look like for the next few years. When I talk to him, he's extremely excited and passionate.
I'm looking forward to meeting him.
Yeah, so
you have a contact number on there? I can maybe get in touch with him.
I don't have a contact number, but I'm sure I can give you one, and I'll give you both of these press releases that I got here on both of those men.
You know, you bring up something interesting. When I grew up in Clinton, there was like Horseman, Elijah Buell, Hawthorne, all these various grade schools, and we would travel around in 5th and 6th grade and play the other schools. Well, now we've only got, a couple elementary schools, so pretty hard to do that.
It is, and I think we need to and probably work with the city programs, with the Erickson Center to say, you know what, if we start working with them and you just say, can we open up something there that kids can come? It can't be just open gym. Have something where there's actually some teaching components that go with it, but then also probably some league play, so there's fun that they're playing that way. And also probably a great opportunity that maybe some of your current high school players are the coaches of that league. Give them an opportunity on the other side of that to say, oh, geez, they're not listening to me. Okay, register that when your high school coach is talking to you.
I always thought that was
as
a
well.
great idea, especially like with, Little League Baseball, to have the high school players be the umpires and, kind of find what it's like on the other side.
Absolutely.
Before we let you go, we got one more thing to talk about, very important, the high school Phase 1 update. It's looking good.
It is. Actually, we took the board through the first time Monday night before the board meeting so they could get a feel for it. Now that the roof is on, we're kind of getting from the point where we're not weather dependent anymore. The way it's working on the 3 floors is they're really, as the subcontractors start, they start on the 3rd floor. And then when they finish the 3rd floor, then they move to the 2nd floor. And then the next level of subcontractors are coming onto the 3rd floor. So if you went through a tour of it right now, the 1st floor, there's not much there. 2nd floor, you see that all the wall framing, you can get it. If you have a map, you can kind of say, oh, this is where this business room is going to be. This is going to be a social studies room. Here's where the restrooms, here's where the light. I mean, you now have that feel for it. You get up to the 3rd floor and you can really see a lot of what I would say the guts behind the walls. So all the piping and ducting and everything along with, and you're seeing that the power is running, between the wall framing so you can see where those power points are going to be. You're even seeing the point that some of the areas are already drywalled and painted. So it's like, okay, things are really starting to move. Now, it's still going to be tight, and some of this is, again, supply line things we're talking about. Oh, this is delayed. We won't get it here till August when we thought we might have it now. And Tricon, the contractor, has been great. Our field manager, Ed Tauber, has been a great person to talk to. He's really been ahead. I mean, he's really been looking at Phase 2 and Phase 3 already. But I'm also impressed with the organization of how Phase 1 is coming together. We're very hopeful that it will be turned over to the district in December. There's been talk about, will there be an open house? There will definitely be an open house. If we get possession of that, probably sometime in January. We might get the kids and the teachers in there first just to get settled before we have an open house. We'll need to work out some of those logistics yet, but it's going to be very nice and very innovative. One of the things I've really stressed, Gary, is I wanted this not to have such a feel of a school, but more of a workplace environment. And it's my hope that you're not going to see a lot of brick or block walls and walkers lining hallways, that it's going to be more of that environment. And again, it probably ties in a little bit with Portrait of a Graduate to say, how do we model the workplace? And that even includes how we're building this school.
Before we let you go, I've been reading the menus now for a couple of weeks, and I think that's a very important, and now I see where they've added breakfast.
Yep. With our new food service director, Kayla Liu, we've added breakfast this year to the summer program menu. So I believe that runs like 7:30 to 8:30,
Yes.
if I'm correct.
Right.
And then I think lunch is like 11 to 12:30, and that's both at Jefferson and Eagle Heights. I would really encourage the north end of town, because our numbers at Eagle Heights, to justify keeping that one open, we really need to have good numbers show up there. We have been getting great numbers at Jefferson. This is an opportunity, and I think people need to understand, from age 1 to age 18. So from age 1 to age 18, it's available. I do think with this program, it's a federal requirement that you need to eat on site, though.
Right.
So when you go there, you'll need to eat on site. It's not a grab and go.
Okay, so Jefferson and Eagle Heights, breakfast and lunch. So we'll see you back again on July 21st. Looking forward to the visit. Gary, thanks so much for your time.
You bet. Thank you.
This is Kate DeLacy.